On tonight's show, we're back in the Chilterns with a deer stalking duo, Owen Beardsmore and Keith Watson, as once again are competing to call in a Muntjac. Who will bring in the buck this time? A few weeks ago, on Realtree Global Hunting, we brought you an episode dedicated to deer calling, as Owen Beardsmore of Cervus UK and Keith Watson competed to call in a Chilterns Muntjac. On that occasion, Keith called in a beautiful big buck that was just too big to shoot, and let him pass through. Despite the disappointment of not getting his buck, Keith was more than happy that he managed to call in such a big muntie. Owen, on the other hand, used his knowledge of his deer, their habits and his land to find a perfect spot to call a Muntjac. It was so perfect, in fact, there was a Muntjac already feeding in the open when he arrived, and he managed to bag his muntie for his cull bucks without even giving a peep. The pair used their different techniques and knowledge of their land to find plenty of deer as bucks, does and fawns moved through the Chilterns countryside. This week, we're back in the Chilterns with a deer stalking duo, as once again they're looking to call in a Muntjac for the cull bucks. Keith Watson is out early evening to try and bag himself a cull deer. Concealed in his Realtree camo, he finds a good position to hunker down and make a call. In this little valley, there's been plenty of signs that Muntjac are using this ground frequently. Keith hopes a few gentle yelps will bring out a buck. Unfortunately, there doesn't appear to be anything responding to the call, and so Keith moves on. But just as Keith is about to explain to us the area we're stalking in, he spots something. A Muntjac has made his way down the clear fell,
Wrong Muntjac as well,
and towards the woods on the opposite side. As he heads behind a fallen tree, Keith moves in. He gets set up next to a tree and tries to call the buck back. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like the buck has hung around. Keith gives a few more peeps before moving on.
One of the reasons that we do the deer management on this particular estate, if you're behind me you'll see an area of clear fell. Obviously we want to stop the deer from browsing the trees as they start to come out the tubes. Tonight we've been trying to call Muntjac, which is just to stop any natural regen being damaged in a bad way really. It's a little bit barren at the moment, but over the next 24 months that plantation will dramatically change with browse and natural cover coming up between the trees.
Keith is keen to get on and make his way down the ride between the two woodlands. Again, there's been plenty of activity from Muntjac in this area, and that buck could still be nearby. He finds another position to get set up in and lets out a few peeps. It isn't long before there's a Muntjac buck barking back at him.
As you can probably hear in the background, the best I've managed this evening is to provoke one to bark. The light level's got that bad now that if I actually managed to call the deer any closer, you wouldn't be able to take a very good shot because they're a very small animal. There's a lot of cover in front of me, so I've decided to let the deer win for tonight.
Keith decides to call it a night for now, but at early doors, he's back out again. Keith is set up just beyond a thick bit of woodland where the trail cams have picked up several bucks. It gives him a few peeps, but there's no reply. Unfortunately, Keith's calling is called to a premature end, as he's called to find a deer with his dog.
Right, we've had a pretty eventful morning. There's one of the fellow stalkers on the estate who's given me a call. He's shot a deer on this particular field this morning. It's run about 140 yards into the wood, and luckily for me, he's not come to the shot site. He's not tried to pursue the deer, he's just given me a call. So I'm just about to arm myself with my dog, my tracking lead, plenty of markers for the trail, and we'll see what we can do. I'm just going to get the dog.
The client has made a good shot on a deer, but it isn't clear if the deer is down or not. Keith and his dog make their way up the hedge line, and there's signs of blood in the grass. They head into the woods, and the dog is straight onto a trail. It isn't long before they find the deer, and it's past. Keith heads back for breakfast, but it's not long before he's called to the other side of the estate to help track another deer. Again, Keith and the dog are on the trail and have soon found it.
We're here again. This is the second track that my dog's done today. The deer's been shot relatively well, but it's run enough distance that the stalker couldn't find it. My dog did lose the trail, probably 70 yards in, and she's lost the trail. It is vitally important for anybody, whether you're tracking a deer or laying a trail. It's a simple thing just to put a couple of pieces of tissue on the spots of blood that you see, so you can take the dog back to a known area. The end result of that, if I couldn't have gone back to the track, I don't think I'd have found this deer. I'd have been wandering for a little while, so good job done. The dog's found it, I'm very happy.
It's been an eventful morning in another area of the estate as well. It's before dawn, and Owen Beardsmore is climbing into a high seat. There's a lot of open woodland in front of him, but he's only just settled into the seat when there's movement behind him.
So the mature buck's just standing with his doe. She may just be coming into season. You'll see her just flicking her tail in a gesture to him. And then standing just down to the left is a younger buck. They're rutting. If you just watch the buck, look, he's just chasing the doe. There's another buck come out now, can you see? Can you see the other buck now coming round the back to try and get to her? Look, he's going to chase him away again, look. That's typical behaviour for this time of the year. A doe that's going to drop an early fawn comes immediately into season and is covered again by another buck. So perhaps that doe over there I'm looking at is still quite big, so she may be due to drop a fawn at any time, and she's attracted the interest of two bucks there. So we're going to try and stalk down the lane and have a look what's actually happening, because it's about 300 yards from where we are, and the light's not particularly good because it's pouring with rain, so we'll go and have a look.
Owen makes his way through the woodland into a position that offers him a better view. It's all gone quiet in the woods at the moment, but with the Muntjac being so territorial, they won't have gone far. As Owen glasses the woodland, a deer moves across the ride in front of him. He edges closer whilst trying to stay in cover. He checks the wind and it's blowing in his favour. He edges a little closer again when the doe walks right across his path. She stops at the peep then the buck comes running across and chases her into the thick stuff.
That's the doe. We just wait here for a minute, maybe the buck's going to cross.
He moves to see if he can head the pair off around the other side of the trees. It's all clear at first, then he gives it a few peeps. Within seconds, a small buck has come running in to take a look. He's not sure what he can see, but he hasn't been spooked yet. The buck looks right at Owen. Every time he goes to move, a peep on the call keeps him from running. He gets within yards of Owen and then makes his way around the fallen tree. He isn't happy though, and soon bolts back into the thick stuff.
About 20 minutes, half an hour ago, we've seen a buck and a doe out on the edge of this piece of woodland. It's not more than about 4 acres. As you can see, it's full of laurel and thick rhododendron. It's perfect habitat for muntjac. And we've come round and got the wind on our side. In particular, I was interested in the doe. There's a strong buck in here, and this is probably one of his sons. We've come in, we've stalked into a position, and there's about, I don't know, half acre of laurels in front of us. I've started calling, and because there's a lot of interest around that doe, and the younger buck's not getting any attention, he's come straight out, as we've just seen. Unfortunately, he came round and got a wind, but it isn't that buck I'm interested in. The weather's horrendous this year, and it's probably the wettest year on record, and even though it's pouring away, we still have to get out and try and get our call. So it just shows you with a bit of perseverance you can actually still find deer, even when it's pouring down the rain.
Just as Owen is about to move on, there's a young doe in the clearing.
And the young doe came out as well. I think that's us done here.
It's been a very interesting few days in the Chilterns, and both Owen and Keith have been unlucky after some great calling. Keith had called in a buck and got plenty of response. However, he didn't want to come in too close and Keith lost the light. But he did manage to successfully retrieve 2 lost deer with his dog. Owen then witnessed 2 bucks fighting for the attention of a doe. He managed to call in 1 buck to only a few yards. But as Owen had reached his quota for this patch, he decided to let the buck go, as it will mature into a better buck for next year. A few very close calls for Owen, Keith, and the Muntjac of the Chilterns. Sometimes you get the luck, and other times you don't. But that's why it's called hunting. Nothing is guaranteed.